Well, hello, Scrappers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to what is this, part 6 of me working with the palladium plated scraps sent to me by Joven in Taiwan. Wow, it has been a long road, and longer than you think just watching these videos, because this stuff has sat here for about a week now. I haven't had time to do anything with it. But this is the long 4th of July weekend. This is the 5th of July. We had the 4th holiday yesterday. And well, I'm off until Monday, so I've got time to work with this stuff. And apparently, the kids across the street have still got some fireworks left over from last night, so you may hear some of that in the background as we are working here. So we're pretty much the same spot with this stuff that we were at the end of the last episode. It's still got some big lumps of stuff in it here that is not dissolving, and I'm pretty sure it is sodium chloride because sodium chloride does not dissolve in hydrochloric acid. Go figure. Anyway, that's what I rehydrated this stuff with, and these big lumps have not dissolved. So, where do I want to go? And also, we need to denox this stuff. I determined in the end of the last video. I determined at the end of the last episode we still got a whole lot of nitrate in here. So I've got to denox this stuff. I can't just put a bunch of sulfamic acid in here. Otherwise, this stuff's just going to bubble up all over the inside of the fume hood, and I'll lose half of it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to denox it maybe a bit at a time. Transfer some of the liquid to another beaker, maybe a tall beaker, and add some sulfamic acid to it to denox it. And then keep this up, just transferring some of it to the tall beaker and denoxing it until I get it all denoxed. And I'm left with nothing but some lumps in here and some denoxed liquid. So, the denoxed liquid would probably be pretty easy to deal with. Dealing with the lumps, well, I've got some ideas in that department, but we need to get there first, and we're still a long way from that. So let me get set up for denoxing this stuff, and we'll get started. I'm hoping that we're getting close to the end of this road, and we'll wind up with some nice palladium here soon. I'm hoping. So, let me get to work. All right, so my cutting plan here is to pour this liquid off into this pitcher, and then I will dole out a little bit of it at a time to this big beaker back here and denox it. And this will give us a look at what in the world we've got in this beaker solid-wise down here. Oh, it's really heavy. Let me turn this so maybe you can see in it better. Yeah, there's a lot of solids here. I didn't think I'd put that much sodium nitrate in there. You might have something other than sodium chloride here too. Okay, that's a good start. Yeah, the bottom of that beaker's slippery. Okay, so let me put maybe half this liquid in here. That looks pretty good. We'll get this in the fume hood, and we'll try denoxing it and see what happens. Alrighty, I've got this stuff in a very tall beaker. I have warmed it slightly. I find that denoxing works better on a warmer liquid. So we're going to put a little bit of sulfamic acid in here. Well, that's kind of anticlimactic. Huh. Well, I see a little bit of bubbling. Yeah, a little bit of bubbling. I'll tell you what, I'm going to try dissolving some of this in water and make a saturated solution, and we'll see what that does. Well, in the time it's taken me to make up this little bit of saturated solution, I've seen a fair amount of bubbling happen in there, so I'd say we are getting denoxed. Let me see what happens when I put this in. Huh. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There's the fizzing I'm looking for. I really didn't want to put more water in because I've worked hard to dehydrate this stuff, but you got to do what you got to do, you know, to denox it. I'm going to put another little shot in and we'll call it denox. Alright. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this stuff into another big beaker, and I'll put the rest of the stuff in the pitcher in this one, and we'll denox it. Okay, I've combined all the denox liquid back into this tall beaker. I'm just going to set this aside for now. Now, I could process this liquid and get the palladium out of it, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of palladium chloride in here. It is soluble in hydrochloric acid, so there should be a lot of it in there. Thing is, I'm sure there's still a lot of it stuck in here too. So I don't know if I want to process this yet. Let me see if I can get some more out of here. And how do I want to do that? That's the question. I'm thinking if I add water to this, all of the salts in here except palladium chloride should dissolve. Palladium chloride should be left behind as a solid. So that's a possibility. And I see that there's still a whole lot of this type liquid in there, but it's just sort of absorbed into this green goo. So, I mean, I've got two different possibilities here. I could either add more hydrochloric acid to it and try to wash out more of the palladium chloride and dump it over here. Or I could try adding water to this and try dissolving some of these solids away. And that should leave behind palladium chloride as a solid. So that's either way. Those are two possibilities. And I'm just sort of racking my brain figuring out what I want to do. I might have lunch and think about it. All right, so I had a good long think about this over lunch, and I've come to the conclusion I'm going to use hot water on this and try and dissolve away as much of the sodium chloride, sodium nitrate, copper chloride, and nickel chloride as I can out of here. And hopefully, the palladium chloride will stay behind as a solid in the bottom of the beaker. My reasoning here is I've got to deal with this solid stuff someday, and well, might as well be today because I've got the time today to work on it. So I'm going to heat some water up good and hot. I'm going to pour it over this stuff, and we're going to see what happens. The palladium chloride should not be soluble. And as the amount of hydrogen chloride in here goes down, the palladium chloride should drop out of solution. That's my theory. We'll see. I'm not going to be too quick to dispose of any liquid that comes out of here. It'll probably all go in my temporary stock pot just in case some palladium comes along. But we'll see how this works. All right, so I've got some hot water here. It is just below boiling. This is distilled water, by the way. And I am going to pour it over the solids in here. I want to try to at least partially dissolve them before trying to heat. Let me turn the heater off, speaking of that. Before trying to heat this beaker from the bottom so I don't break another one. Remember back in an earlier video, actually broke a beaker. It might have been from continuing to heat it after the stuff on the bottom had gone solid. So we'll see what happens here. I'm hoping that this will soften up or dissolve these big lumps in here. This we'll find out soon enough. And I'm going to turn the heat on this side, but on low, just on very low. And we'll see what happens. Give it a little while. See if those lumps start dissolving or getting soft anyway. That'd be great. And I can pour that liquid off and try to deal with it. Okay, so let me just wait and see what happens. All right, so this has been sitting here for 40 minutes, an hour maybe, and I really think that the solids in here are starting to dissolve and break up. I was worried that I had created something totally insoluble here, but it certainly feels like it's starting to break up and go back into solution. Now, some of you may be thinking to yourself, well, Mike, you're just undoing. Yeah, there's still some big clumps in there, but some of it's definitely gone back into solution. But some of you may be thinking to yourself, well, Mike, you just boiled this stuff down to concentrate it, now you've just diluted it again. Yes, there's a technical term for what I'm doing here, and it's called fixing my screw up. All right, so we're going to have to get a lot of this stuff back into solution to deal with my oopsie of using way too much potassium nitrate in the poor man's nitric acid. So I got to get that stuff back into solution. Now, hopefully, any solids that won't go back into solution will be palladium chloride. And I can just add that stuff to that beaker of denox liquid. I'm hoping that I can do that. So we're going to let this continue to hopefully soften up. I kind of doubt that's enough water to get it all in solution, but we'll see how it goes, and then move on from there. I'm just going to let this continue to cook for now, and we'll see how much of that solid we can get back in solution. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to pour off the liquid and leave what solids are down here behind. We may do a test in a minute. I want to see if this liquid, deep green liquid, whoops, spilling some of it, has a lot of palladium in it or not. Ooh, there's some interesting crystal growth in there. That's cool. Nice pointy crystals. Get out of there, Ant. You don't want to go swimming in that. Okay. Let's do a stannous chloride test on this stuff and see if we still got palladium in this stuff, or if I'm leaving it behind as a chloride in there. I don't know how dilute this liquid is. If there's still a lot of hydrogen chloride in it, then the palladium's still in solution. But if I got rid of most of the hydrogen chloride, the palladium might have dropped out of solution. So we'll see. We'll get a look here. Let me put some stannous chloride on this. Oh, wow, yeah, we still got a lot of palladium in solution. That's great. Okay. So the palladium is still in this liquid for the most part. I'm sure there's still some down there. But yeah, the palladium is still here. All right. So we're leaving a lot of the solids behind, but we got palladium here. That's good. That's great. I'm liking that. Okay. All right. Let me find another container and we'll decant off some more of that liquid. So I'm pretty certain that most of this solid in here is excess sodium nitrate that I used. My poor man's aqua. That was my big mistake, I'm pretty sure. So we want to leave that behind because I want to denox this stuff. So I've got an idea. I'm going to try washing some of this stuff with some cold hydrochloric acid and see if I can get some more palladium out of it without dissolving a lot of the solids in here. So let me try that. Put a stir stick in there. Got a very powerful fan at my back blowing, so the fumes are heading off away from me here. You just, if I can stir this around a little bit, break it up. Break up the lumps. I don't want to dissolve it though. I just want to give it a good wash. It'd take a lot of washing to get all that green color out of it. But I think the first couple are probably going to get the bulk of it out. I'm sure that green color is mostly copper, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some palladium in there too. Okay. Yes, there's some broken glass in there. I was correct about that. I thought this felt a little weird. Oh, there's a big piece of broken glass in there. Wow. Okay. Okay. Let me sort of divide this up into two more or less equal portions and denox it and move on from there. So I may just dilute this stuff with water and throw it in my stock pot rather than trying to do anything else with it. I think we've got rid of a lot of excess sodium nitrate here and probably some sodium chloride too, which is good. It's just in the way. All right, I washed the solids out of this big beaker into this smaller one with some distilled water. I pulled out the bigger chunks of broken glass and cleaned them off. So this contains a lot of distilled water and all the solids from the bottom of that beaker. So as you can see, there's some solids down there that are not dissolving, at least not yet. But this is all room temperature. Not sure what those solids are. I don't believe it's palladium chloride because it's the wrong color. Although I will double check that. Do a little quick research on that just to make sure. But it really doesn't look like got a lot of palladium chloride settling out of solution in there, at least not at this point. That might be sodium chloride still. I'm not sure. Something. Not quite sure what. But I'm just going to let this sit for now. And like I said, do a little research on what that salt on the bottom could be. Let me see if any palladium chloride does settle out of it. And then this liquid will probably go into my stock pot. And at least it won't be lost. But we may not get as high a yield out of this as I was hoping just because of, well, my mistakes. But the liquid But none of the palladium is being lost. Some of it's just going to be gotten in the distant future when I process my stock pot again. Okay, so I'm going to filter these liquids and get any remaining solids out of them. Both stuff, some has come out of solution again, and stuff that was left in there from my pour filtration of the stuff after the poor man's aqua regia. So I'm just going to get this stuff all good and cleaned up, and then we will work on dropping the palladium out of it. So I'm going to filter it and then portion it back out amongst my beakers once it's good and clean. I'm hoping to actually get to recovering some palladium today. Been playing with this stuff for long enough. I want to see some palladium. I'll bet you do too. So anyway, let me get this stuff filtered, get it back into beakers, and then we'll work on how we're going to get the palladium out. Yeah, filtering all this liquid is going to take a while. In fact, I've decided that this liquid over here, which I was going to put in my stock pot, I think I'm going to filter it through too, and we'll see. I'm sure there's probably some palladium in this stuff, so we'll try to recover it. So I've already got this much filtered, this much, and I'm going to put this stuff through. I've got one more big beaker to go, but we may not wait for the filtration to finish before we start trying to drop some palladium out of this stuff over in the fume hood, because this filtration could be an ongoing thing. Yeah, that filtration is going to take a while. So in the meantime, we can get started. So I've got a liter of this filtered liquid in this tall beaker. Note, tall beaker, that's important. And I'm only going to do a liter of this at a time because there is a good potential for boil over here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to warm this stuff up. I don't want it super hot, I just want it warm because we are going to dissolve as much ammonium chloride in it as it can handle, basically until no more will dissolve. And when you dissolve ammonium chloride, it's an endothermic reaction, meaning the liquid gets cold. And the cold liquid doesn't hold as much. So we're going to heat it up a little bit, and we're going to dissolve as much of this in it as it can take. And this process is right out of C.M. Hope's book. You want to know how to do this? It's right in her book. There's a link to it in the description of this video. Start with 3 good scoops here. It'll probably take more than that, especially as the liquid warms up. But we'll start with 3 good scoops. See if we can get all that dissolved. I'll put some more in. And then once that's all dissolved, we'll go to the next step. Let me get back over here to the filtration while I'm waiting for this to warm up and the ammonium chloride to dissolve. Alright, I've moved this stuff off the heat because it actually got a little warmer than I wanted. Where are we here? 71C. That's like at the high end of where I want to do this reaction. Now I put in about another half a scoop of ammonium chloride and it took a while to dissolve. So I think we're good to go here for the next step. And what is the next step, you might be asking? Well, we're going to put some sodium chlorate in there. Not very much. This is the dangerous part of the reaction. This is going to react with the leftover acid in there, and it's going to create chlorine gas. And this reaction can be deceptively slow at first and lull you into thinking you can put more of this stuff in, and then it takes off like a rocket ship, and everything just bubbles right up out of your beaker, and big clouds of chlorine gas force you to go running. So yeah, we're going to be real conservative about this. Now, one question I got a lot back when I did my stock pot a while back, and I'll put a link to that series of videos in the upper right, is there something I can use besides sodium chlorate, because I can't get it. That was a very popular question, and my answer is maybe. I would assume that a lot of hypochlorites would do the same thing. Sodium hypochlorite, calcium hypochlorite, they might work just as well, but I haven't tried it. That might be the subject of a future video to see if they will work better. But basically, I think anything you put in here that will generate chlorine gas ought to work as well as this stuff. But this stuff really works. So we're just going to put a little bit in. A little bit at a time. Especially since this stuff's hot. The reaction can really take off. Yeah, see, we got some foaming going on there. That's pretty controllable so far. But what we're looking for here is the formation of a red precipitate. And yes, we are getting some red stuff. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, we're getting some red stuff. That red stuff is palladium ammonium chloride. And yeah, we're getting some serious foaming going on. Just a little bit of this stuff makes a lot of chlorine gas in there. I'm going to put a little bit more in just to make sure that the reaction has gone to completion. And then leave it at that. Oh yeah, see the bubbling? Oh yeah, if you're not careful, you can add enough of this stuff, it will just shoot right out of the top of your beaker. You saw how little I put in there. I'm talking like milligrams at the most, I'm sure. Maybe a gram. So, all that red stuff right there, I hope it's showing up between the top of the liquid in here. That's all palladium ammonium chloride. So once I've done filtering all that other liquid over there, I can clean up the filter funnel, put a new filter in it, and we can filter this stuff off of this liquid here and get our palladium. That worked a treat. I'm happy with that. Okay. So I'm going to let that sit and cool down a little bit. I've still got more filtration to do over here anyway. So, all right, so that worked so well the first time around. We're going to do it again. I've got another liter of my filtered liquid over here. And it's starting to warm up a little bit. I'm going to start putting some ammonium chloride in it. I know about the right amount now, about 3.5 scoops. Will dissolve in warm liter of that liquid. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera or not, but the top of this beaker over here is filled with a green gas. That's chlorine. That is filled with chlorine. So, got to do this in a fume hood for sure. It's dangerous. All right, so let me get some about 3.5 scoops of ammonium chloride in this stuff, get it dissolving, and we will do that again. And I'm not too worried about having a slight excess of ammonium chloride in here. Like if there's a few grains in the bottom that won't dissolve, that's fine. Because in a later step, it'll just get sublimated away in an oven. So not really a big deal. So, all right, so let me get some more in here and get it dissolved, and we'll do that again. Let's see where we are with this stuff. And I see a couple undissolved grains swirling by, so I would say it's got as much as it's going to take. 52°C, that's a less scary temperature for doing this reaction. I think we're ready to go. All right. One to start with. This is how it lulls you into putting a lot more in. I am running at a lower temperature here. Don't see any red precipitate yet, and there wasn't a lot of foaming either, so We will put one more in. This liquid's a little more dilute than the first stuff I've done, so it may not have as strong a reaction with the sodium chlorate. Yeah, definitely not having a stronger reaction with it. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Yeah, you see, you've got a bit of a delayed reaction going on here. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Don't ever trust that sodium chlorate in there. Sooner or later, something's going to happen. Keep the chlorine gas that's generating in, and we'll check on that again in a few seconds and see if we start seeing a red precipitate. Yeah, this stuff, some of this stuff's more concentrated than others. Some of this stuff's been diluted more. So, definitely something happening in there. Hopefully we'll start getting that red precipitate soon. If not, I'll put a little bit more in, but I'm going to wait for that reaction to stop first. I don't want it to take off like a volcanic eruption. Okay, I have moved the one from over to here, and it's not obvious that anything has happened, but there is a red scum around the top here. See the red? And the liquid has gone a muddy reddish brown. Whereas this liquid, which I haven't done anything with, is still green. So, yeah, this has done its thing. It's just that this was a little more diluted than the last stuff. So, we didn't get quite as vigorous a reaction. We didn't get a bunch of stuff bubbling up out of it. But we did get a reaction. So I can filter the palladium ammonium chloride out of this too. And I'm starting to warm up another one. I already got the ammonium chloride in it, stirring it in, getting it to dissolve, and I'll do this one too. And I will start filtering the palladium ammonium chloride out of the ones I've already done, and just keep this assembly line going 1 liter at a time until I get through all this liquid. Okay, so here's the liquid that still needs to be processed. Here's the first batch that's gone through. And yeah, wow. Let me get this stuff all filtered. Get my stir stick back here. Pump started. Now this liquid is frothy with chlorine gas, so the exhaust of the pump is going to be kind of nasty. And it's probably not good for my pump, but hopefully we can get through all this stuff without locking it up. Oh yeah, we're getting quite a bit of the lovely red stuff up here. I'll show you what it looks like up here once I've got this first batch filtered through. Well, here's the first of it. Plenty more to go. I think we're going to have a fair amount of this stuff in here by the time I get all this liquid processed and filtered off through here. Things are going swimmingly. I've been filtering the second one I did, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot more red stuff in here than I thought. A lot of it's sunk to the bottom. So it's good to know that the reaction, if the liquid's a little more dilute, the reaction's a lot less vigorous, but it happens nonetheless. You know, don't be fooled into thinking it hasn't happened. Just look for red stuff. It's there. Okay, we are getting quite an accumulation of it up here in the filter too, which is a beautiful thing. Okay, we are getting such an accumulation of the red salt up here that the filter is clogging up and really slowing down. So what I might have to do is change out filter papers. We might have multiple filter papers full of red palladium salt here before we're done, just because this is going to take all day to filter at the rate it's going, and I still got a couple liters to process. We're going to have a lot of palladium here. This is exactly what I was hoping. Okay, here we go with another liter of the liquid. We'll see if the reaction is energetic or kind of blah this time. I got a feeling they're all going to be kind of blah from here on out because this liquid's a little less concentrated. There's been some rinse water that's gone into it. And, you know, I had some liquid that was less concentrated to begin with, too. So, oh yeah, there we go. Look at that. There we go. Somewhere between super energetic and blah. We got there in the end, though. All right. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay. So I'll get another liter in here and get it going. And should have all this stuff done. Well, once again, filtering is a bottleneck because it is slowed down to a crawl over there, and I've got a funnel full of red liquid. So sooner or later, I'll get it all filtered, though. I'll get all the filters in a beaker, and then we can move on to doing something else. All right, I am using a saturated solution of ammonium chloride in water to rinse down this filter. Trying to get as much of the copper color out of it as I can. Just clean up the palladium salt here. Using the ammonium chloride solution will prevent the palladium from going back into solution. You don't want to use water here. Use a saturated solution of ammonium chloride in water. Alright, so I'm going to rinse this a few more times. Then I'm going to pull this filter out to the side and put a clean one in because I've got a lot more stuff to filter. This is just going great. It's going like gangbusters. We got a lot of red stuff in here. For sure. A lot of red stuff. And I got a lot more I need to filter. Here, let me show you something. I'm warming up this next liter. Actually, I'm down to the last two, so there's a little more than a liter in each. I'm just warming this up and dissolving the ammonium chloride in it. I haven't done anything else to it yet. Look at my stir stick. Look at the red. I've already got palladium and ammonium chloride coming out of solution in here. I haven't even put in the sodium chloride yet. And it's already starting to come out of solution. Wow, that's pretty cool. So let's put in the sodium chloride and really get the party started. Oh yeah, that's doing the job. Oh yeah. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Yeah. Keep the chlorine in. Let it do its job. All right. Wow. This is working great. All right, here's the last one. I hope you can hear me over the rain. It's starting to come down pretty hard. But this is the last one. I just got to drop the palladium out of it. And then there's nothing left to do but filter all this stuff. And filtration, the rest of it might have to wait. until another day. Now this is about the most dilute of all, this last batch here, so I'm not expecting a spectacular reaction. I'm thinking if we just wait. In fact, yeah, it's going red. It's going red. Okay. There it goes. Yeah, a little bit of a delayed reaction. This was a little bit more dilute than some of the others, but it finally took off. So, alright. I don't care if it takes its time. I don't have time to filter today anyway. Make sure the heat's off. And I am going to escape while I can in the break in the rain here. And then come back out when it's done, or tomorrow, or the next day, and finish filtering this stuff. So that was a bit of an ordeal. You didn't even see all of it. But I've got all of the red powder, the filters with the red powder in this funnel here, and I'm just going to wash it with some hydrochloric acid to try and get as much of the copper and nickel out of it as I can before we move on to trying to recover the palladium. Because it looks like it's got a lot of green stuff in it still. The stuff's coming through pretty green down here. So I'm just going to wash it with hydrochloric acid. I may have erroneously said earlier that hydrochloric acid will dissolve this stuff. It will not dissolve the red stuff. Straight water will. Water with at least 10 or 15% of ammonium chloride in it won't dissolve it. But hydrochloric acid won't dissolve it. So I can use it to wash this stuff. Try and clean it up a little bit. And yeah, you haven't even seen all the problems. Well, first off, it's been raining, and this stuff has sat for a couple of days while my lab was underwater over here. And even today, well, I can wait out here. At least it's dry where I'm standing, but if it rains again today, it'll probably be underwater again. So this stuff has sat a while because of the weather. And had some other issues too, which didn't make it on camera. So yeah, it's just been one thing after another, but I think we have finally got our palladium isolated, at least from all of the waste. Speaking of waste, we'll take a look at that in a second. I'm just gonna try and clean this up as best I can by running a bunch of HCl through here, and then I'll just let this sit in the funnel and let the vacuum pull the liquid through and dry it out, and then we can move on to the next step in the process. But let's take a look at the waste and maybe do a stannous chloride test on it and see what's left in it, if anything. All right, so while that stuff's getting the excess liquid pulled out of it under the vacuum filtration, let's have a look at this. Ugh. Got a lot of waste liquid here. We're back to about 2 gallons of waste liquid with all of the rinse water and ammonium chloride water and hydrochloric acid rinse I've used. My goodness, we've got a lot of waste liquid here again. But let's give it a stannous chloride test and see if we've got the palladium out of it. Okay. Okay, now this is an interesting result. I'll give you a close-up on that. That, to me, does not look like an indication for palladium. What that looks like to me is an indication for gold. So I think I'd be surprised if we got all the palladium out of this. There's probably still a trace in there. Okay, I was planning on putting this stuff in my temporary stock pot, eventually into my main stock pot, and so on and so forth, all through my treatment system. But yeah, I think there's still some gold here, which I'm not surprised about, because Jobin, when he sent me this stuff, said that it had originally been gold plated, and the gold plating had been stripped somehow, I don't know how they got the gold off without taking the palladium, but somehow. And some of the strips did have showings of gold on them still. So there may have been more gold there than was visible. So it looks like we've got some gold in this waste liquid. So, hey, bonus. Thank you, Jobin. We got some gold too, as well as the palladium. So I don't think I'm going to tackle the gold in this right now. In fact, I may not tackle the gold at all. I may just put this stuff in my temporary stock pot, throw some SMB in there, and call it a day and let it settle out to the bottom of the temporary stock pot. Okay, because this has been a process, let me tell you, a process. So I think I'm going to stick to recovering the palladium from now, and I'll think about what to do with the gold in here. All right, but yeah, I don't know if I want to deal with trying to recover. It looks like maybe a decent amount of gold, but from two gallons of liquid, when I can just throw it in my temporary stock pot and let it settle out over time and get it as a scum off the bottom. That might be the best way to go. Let me know what you think. What would you do in this case? I'd be interested in hearing. All right, let's get back to the palladium. Okay, I've run a lot of hydrochloric acid through here. This stuff's looking a lot less green. I think I've got a lot of the base metal salts out of it, the nickel, the copper. I'm sure there's still some, but it's certainly a lot cleaner than it was before I gave it this bath. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to let it sit here for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Let the vacuum pull the liquid off of it until we got something that's semi-dry. And then we'll figure out where to go from there. Get red stuff on my stick here. I want to do that. All right. Let's try this out. So as this has sat here for a few minutes, I think I do see a little bit of a trace of palladium look around the outside, which again, I'm not surprised that I didn't get all the palladium out of this stuff, but it still certainly looks like mostly gold to me. Just thought I'd give you that quick update. All right, this stuff has had a chance to drain out, good and dry. Put the filters, multiples, in here. Actually, looks like some red stuff there. Okay. So where do we go from here with this stuff? Well, what I need to do probably is put this in my Capelling oven and burn off the paper and burn off the ammonium chloride, and we should be left with palladium sponge. So I think I shall do that. But once again, the rain clouds are gathering, and this video is getting pretty long, so I think there will have to be a part 7 where we will do that. And we should finally see some actual palladium metal at the end of the next video. So thanks for sticking with me through this whole process. I feel like I've given birth here. My goodness, this has been a lot of work to get to this point. And I don't even have metal yet. I've just got basically the palladium all segregated in here. So in the next video, we'll see if we can find some metal. So thanks for watching. If you found this video at all interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And subscribe to see my future videos, including the next one, when hopefully we'll have some palladium metal here. And all my other videos, which will be coming out soon. I've got several others coming out soon. So subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.